Hey guys, today I want to take a look at a possible 2024 matchup between Joe Biden and Donald Trump with a little bit of a twist, and this is if Joe Biden's term continues to go the way that it has over his first 2 months in office. I think his first 2 months have been a pretty great success for Joe Biden. I think definitely his popularity is much higher than I expected it to be at this point. And if you look at his approval on his handling of the coronavirus, you'll see he has a 61.2% approval rating on this subject and a 34% disapproval with a net 26% approval. If you look at his approval on the economy, this was Joe Biden's weakest part, I guess. This was the thing that most voters were most confident in Trump in and least confident in Biden in. But Biden's handling of the economy currently has a net 11.3% approval. And if you look at Joe Biden's job approval overall, it's around the same 11%, at around 53% approve to 42% disapprove, and that's more people than that voted for Joe Biden in the 2020 presidential election. As for Donald Trump, his popularity is not very high right now. It's at negative 15.4 in his favorability, and really is at an all-time low after the Capitol insurrection, and it's really never been lower than what it was after that, with the exception of before he even ran for president, before he was a major nominee. So, so basically, Donald Trump at the most unpopular point in the last couple of years. And so Donald Trump is still the front runner for the 2024 Republican Party primary as of right now at 25 cents a share. But Ron DeSantis is doing a little bit of catch up over the last couple of days. For the Democrats, you really only have two candidates, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris. But yeah, there's definitely going to be some other people in it if Joe Biden does not run. But right now, I'm betting on the fact that Joe Biden does run for re-election. But really, there's no one you can really think of that can run in 2024 that that did well in 2020, and that's not old. So Warren, Sanders are probably not going to run again. They're just too old. So. Taking a look at this electoral map, I'm going to start off by filling in the solid states for Joe Biden, starting off with the West Coast. I think that his 54% approval rating really is very good for him. That gives a majority of the country just, straight off that approves of him. So, that definitely will help him in 2024 if he has that sort of approval rating. That would be better than Barack Obama's in 2012 when he ran for re-election, and he was still able to win. And one major key is that I think that with the economic crisis that you saw in 2020 with COVID-19, I think that really is going to benefit Joe Biden because he'll be able to help the country recover from that. And most people, as of right now, as you can see with his job approval on his handling of the coronavirus, you can see that people approve of what he's doing with this. And I think this will definitely help him because if you look back in history, it's essentially a lot of the economic problems that the country faces has a pretty big impact on who wins presidential elections. And I think that with this recovery, Joe Biden would be able to actually help the economy, and I think that would help him. That was something that Donald Trump did not have because every time the U.S. has some issue with the economy, the party that's in charge, that's in the White House typically does lose. You saw that with George W. Bush, who had a horrible economy towards the end with the housing market crash, and you saw the election of Barack Obama by a landslide. You saw the Clinton landslide for Bill Clinton after economic troubles in the early 90s with George Bush Sr. You saw it with stagflation in the 70s and then the early 80s, and that's why you saw the election of Ronald Reagan over Jimmy Carter. So every time there's some sort of economic thing, the party in charge typically does lose and in a landslide. And for Joe Biden, I think that this definitely was a landslide in modern day terms. It wasn't a landslide, but it was a very, very strong victory. As you saw, he won 51.3% of the vote, and 81 million people voted for him. So I think that definitely this is something that Joe Biden should be happy about. So yeah, these are the solid states I have on this map for President Joe Biden. The state of Colorado I put in here as well. I think that definitely Joe Biden can improve off of his 13.5% margin and have that cross over 15%. If you compare this to 2016, Clinton won this state by 4.9%. I think definitely Joe Biden can improve off of this margin. And New Mexico is currently at 10.8%. 2016, it was 8.2%. So it's moving a little bit slower. I think that Biden, 100% will win New Mexico. But I think that right now it'll stay a likely state for the President of the United States, as well as that the at-large vote in Maine, I think, will also be likely, and the second congressional district of Nebraska, just to get that out of the way. Now, taking a look at the solid states for Donald Trump, these are states that he will 100% win. There's no doubt that the former president will win all of these states. It's just unthinkable that he's going to lose any of these Republican strongholds that I'm filling in red right now. The margins in these states is something that I do want to talk about. I think that in the 2nd District of Maine, it will actually go down to a lean margin. So I'm going to fill in a lean state for the president right now. If you look at the 2nd Congressional District of Maine, 2012, this was a blue district, Obama plus 8.6. Go back to 2008, and this was Obama plus 11.3. So this has a long history of being blue. I mean, even in 2004, this was the last time that the GOP ever won the popular vote on the presidential level. It was Kerry plus 6. So Democrats have won this for decades. I mean, decades before. The last Republican to win it was Ronald Reagan, or not Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush in 1988, and Ronald Reagan beforehand. But if you look at 2016, there was a huge flip from Obama plus around 8% to Trump plus 10% in northern Maine. And then the election in 2020 didn't help either. It was Trump plus 7.4. But I do think that in 2024, it will lower to under 7% for former President Trump. As well as that, Montana, I don't think it's going to be solid. Look at the map, 16.4. 2016, this was 20.5, and I think that Donald Trump will be even less popular in 2024 than he was in 2020. He is no longer the former president. He's no longer the incumbent, so it's going to be a lot different for him, because incumbents, they do have advantages. Many presidents are reelected, most presidents are reelected, and then for Donald Trump, he was the first president in over 3 decades to not be reelected. And then if you look at Kansas, I think Kansas will be likely as well as Missouri. Kansas was likely in 2020. I don't think it'll get any better for him. And Missouri was very, very barely a solid state. So these 2 states I am putting in the likely column for President Trump. And then the state of Mississippi, I think, will also drop down to a likely state. I think Democrats will make they'll make some gains in the South in the next couple of decades. Whether or not it can flip, that's really, really unlikely. Mississippi has the highest percentage of African Americans in the country, but they do also have many white people who are very, very conservative. But I do think that if Democrats can get more people to vote in these southern states that are people of color, I think that they can definitely make gains in some of these states. I mean, it's just unthinkable for Joe Biden to win any of these states right now, but I think that he can definitely make gains in the South, no matter how red it really is. The state of South Carolina as well will be a likely state. It was likely in 2020. There's no way this is going above 15% for President Trump in 2024. And then I have the state of Alaska. Sorry, I didn't fill this in earlier, but the state of Alaska I have as a likely state for former President Trump. I think that'll definitely, I think that this state will definitely go to him. It has a pretty long history of going Republican. It hasn't gone for a Democrat since, I believe, the 60s. As you can see, 4 plus 22.3. He won it with a solid margin, even against, or for Reagan versus Carter. Reagan won it by a very, very commanding lead. Again, 36%. So this state has been red for a very long time, but it's definitely been a little bit bluer in the last couple of years, especially 2012. Mitt Romney didn't do the best. John McCain, it was still a pretty strong margin, but afterwards, it's just gotten more and more to the left. I think that in the next couple of years, it can definitely turn into a likely state or a lean state on the presidential level. But right now, I have it still as a likely state for the former president of the United States. So this gives Trump 125 electoral votes, and then Joe Biden here, of course, 198. Now, there are quite a few likely states that I think will 100% go to Biden, starting off with Minnesota, Virginia, and New Hampshire. These 3 states, they're kind of in the middle for Joe Biden. These are all states that Joe Biden won by essentially around 7 to 10%. Virginia was 10%. But these states definitely will go to Joe Biden. These are likely states in 2020. And I don't see any reason why these states would change. Virginia is going to keep moving to the left. In New Hampshire, it's been a pretty back and forth over the last couple of decades, but I think with Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, it's definitely a Biden state. Minnesota has the longest history being Democratic. It's that blue spot in the Rust Belt with the exception of Illinois, just because of that Chicago area. That's why Illinois is so blue, because of Chicago, but Minnesota is the other one. It's more rural, but it's still blue. I think that'll give Joe Biden another 9 electoral votes, and this puts Biden up at 224 electoral votes. Now, some other likely states, and I didn't put these with the solid states because they're not solid states for Donald Trump. These are states that Trump only flipped just 4 years ago. Iowa and Ohio. I think that these states will continue to be around the same margins. I mean, you saw those polls that showed that Biden was leading in these two states. It was completely off. They were off by 8-9%. I mean, Joe Biden was leading in both these states until the very, very end, until just a day before the election. Iowa and Ohio were projected to be Biden states. 538 gave these states to Joe Biden, but Ohio 8%, Iowa 8%. You go to 2016, Ohio 8%, Iowa 9%. There was really no change, and it's not going to go into 7%. That's just very, very unrealistic for President Trump. He does well in Ohio. He does well in Iowa. He also does well in the Rust Belt. I mean, Donald Trump is an amazing candidate in the Rust Belt. He flipped all of it. It went from this in 2008, you lost one. In 2012, you lost the state of Indiana. But 2016, it just went all red. Everything except for Minnesota, which is pretty unlikely. Even Minnesota was close, and Illinois, which was still solid because of Chicago. So, a huge shift from 2012 to 2016. But even because of that, even though Donald Trump is a strong candidate here, I cannot give these states to the former president. I think Joe Biden will win all three of these states with lean margins. I think definitely he'll improve. He is the incumbent, and with an approval rating as strong as 61% in his handling of COVID-19 and plus 11, it averages at around plus 13 for Joe Biden actually. In terms of his general approval, I think definitely these three states can be pretty solid lean states. I really don't see it going back to Obama levels ever. At least in the next couple of decades, Obama was great here, but Joe Biden is not Barack Obama. He's a strong candidate, but Obama is a once-in-a-lifetime candidate, just like Donald Trump was in 2016. So this puts Joe Biden 2 electoral votes away from winning the election. And the last state for him here is the state of Nevada, which is a lean state, giving Joe Biden 274 electoral votes. And Nevada has been pretty close in the last couple of decades, but it's mostly been Democratic. It's voted Democratic in the past couple of elections. 2004 was red, as well as 2000, but before that it went to Clinton. 1992 Clinton as well, went to Bush in 88, Reagan as well. So it's been pretty back and forth. However, 2016, even Hillary Clinton won this state. Joe Biden won it surprisingly by the same margin. 2020, I think, will improve a little bit, but not too much, just from what we saw in 2020. I really expect the state of Nevada to be a lot stronger for Joe Biden than it really was. It actually was pretty disappointing, and I think I think Biden should have been pretty disappointed about that. So there are now 5 states in the Sun Belt, and this is an area that is moving to the left more and more every 4 years. Arizona, this was a Biden state. It finally flipped in 2020. I'm giving to Joe Biden, as well as Georgia. So these are the states that Biden won in 2020. I think that definitely these 2 states will be a hold for Joe Biden, with his level of popularity right now. And if he sees that into 2024, there's no doubt that he's going to carry both of these states again. These states will continue to move to the left, just demographically and just how they voted. They now have Democratic senators in both seats for the first time since the 40s to 50s. Arizona, Kyrsten Sinema and Mark Kelly. Georgia, Raphael Warnock and Jon Ossoff. And Mark Kelly and Raphael Warnock are both up for re-election in both these states in 2022. And I think that'll give us a good idea where these states lie. They're definitely not just blue states, but I think that, these states definitely favor the Democrats more than the Republicans. I will also give Joe Biden North Carolina. This is another state that has been shifting to the left in the last couple of decades. Especially in the last couple of years. 2012, Mitt Romney +2. Donald Trump did better, but he did horrible this time, just plus 1.3. And then the state in 2008 was very, very narrowly an Obama state. But before that, it was likely for Bush. So this state has, come quite a long way. And I think that 2024 will be the year that it flips. Whether or not, Democrats can hold on to that after, I'm not sure. But with Joe Biden being the incumbent popular president, when the economy I would expect to be pretty good. I don't expect there to be some sort of crisis. I think the state could definitely flip for Joe Biden. And, typically, presidents, when they get reelected, they do better than they did the first time. That's just something that has happened. Barack Obama was only the second president. I mean, just imagine, Barack Obama was the second president in American history to be reelected by a smaller margin than in which he was elected for the first time. So Barack Obama going from 365 to 332. It was only the second time in history that an incumbent president won re-election with a lesser share of the electoral vote count. So Joe Biden is expected to do better in 2024, which is why I will give him the state of North Carolina. I will also give him Florida. I think that Florida definitely Trump did well in 2020. There's no doubting that. He won the state by 3.4%. But that's definitely a recoverable amount for Joe Biden. There's, no doubt that Joe Biden can definitely recover that. So yeah, I think that, with what happened, his popularity just across the country for Donald Trump has waned since the Capitol insurrection, and I doubt that it'll improve in 2024 when he goes back into another heated primary, and, all that stuff happens again. I really don't think that he can beat an incumbent president who beat him last time and is very popular in 4 years. So that's why I'm giving Joe Biden Florida as well as Texas. This might be a little bit of a stretch, but right now I think that with Joe Biden's popularity, Texas is definitely in reach. If you look at Texas in 2020, a lot of places shifted to the left. All those major cities, they all shifted. And if you look, it might look bad, at first glance, but you gotta consider that these counties in the southern edge of Texas, there's hundreds of votes. I mean, just hundreds. And look at this county here. Shifted 40 points, but only 127 votes for Republicans there. But these counties here, with hundreds of thousands, almost millions of votes, in the central Texas here, this is where the votes matter, and this is where most votes are. And these major areas are shifting to the left. I mean, when you have a couple thousand, with a little bit of a shift, that really doesn't compare at all to these huge shifts for blue in these, in these metropolitan areas. So that is why I'm giving Texas to Joe Biden. Mathematically, it works. This went from 2012, 15.8%, 16%, down to 9% for Joe Biden. So a 6% flip or shift from 2012 to 2016, 2020, 5%. It's getting worse and worse for Donald Trump. The state has shifted to the left by 10 points throughout Donald Trump's, 2 elections. In 2020, 2024, I don't think will be much better for Donald Trump or the Republicans. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I have now Joe Biden 390 electoral votes to Donald Trump 148. This is, of course, if Joe Biden has a successful first term and it keeps on going like it is right now. I think that his first couple of months have been pretty successful. I think he's definitely shown that he is a capable president. Join Discord server if you have not, the link to which is at the very top of the description below. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Comment down below who you think would win if Joe Biden remains popular if you were to run against Donald Trump, or comment down below any calls you think I made that were wrong in your opinion, and explain why. I'd love to read that as well. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Like this video, and I will see you guys in the next video.